The Geopolitical Game of Energy: How Europe's Energy Crisis is Manufactured and What It Means for the Future of Finance. Introduction. The energy crisis in Europe has become one of the most pressing issues of the 21st century. While it is often framed as a consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent sanctions placed on Moscow, a closer examination reveals a much deeper, more complex story. The rising cost of energy, particularly natural gas and oil, is not just a side effect of geopolitics. It is a manufactured crisis, exacerbated by deliberate policy decisions. At the heart of this crisis is a paradox. Europe, which is geographically close to Russia, is now paying exorbitantly higher prices for Russian gas than it ever did before the conflict, thanks to a series of convoluted geopolitical maneuvers. Meanwhile, this economic hardship is not limited to the energy sector alone. It's intricately tied to the broader financial system, which continues to burden the global economy with inflation, debt, and inequality. In this analysis, we'll explore how Europe's energy crisis has been exacerbated by policy choices that defy logic, and why the current financial system is unable to resolve the issues it has created. We will also look at alternative economic models, like Bitcoin and decentralized finance, as viable solutions to reduce the central banking system's control over global finance, and by extension, give individuals more autonomy over their financial futures. The energy crisis, a manufactured problem. Europe's self-inflicted policy. Europe's decision to impose sanctions on Russia, severing ties with the country's energy exports, was justified as a necessary measure to punish Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. However, the outcome of these sanctions is far from what was intended. Europe now finds itself scrambling to replace Russian energy, while paying inflated prices for gas that could have been purchased directly from its neighbor at a fraction of the cost. In a perplexing twist, Europe has found itself paying significantly more for Russian gas, often 3 to 4 times the price, by purchasing it indirectly through the US and India. India, which remains friendly with Russia due to its BRICS alliances, continues to buy Russian energy at discounted rates and then resells it to European countries at much higher prices. The United States, acting as an intermediary, profits from this arrangement by selling this gas to Europe, further inflating the cost. This situation raises a critical question. Why would Europe, which is geographically close to Russia and could potentially buy gas at lower prices, choose instead to pay inflated prices through these indirect channels? The answer lies in the policy decisions that seem to prioritize geopolitical posturing and sanctions over economic logic. The costs passed on to European consumers are not the result of natural market forces. They are part of a deliberate strategy to increase the economic pressure on Russia and, incidentally, on the European populace. The geopolitical game of energy. The energy market is being shaped by geopolitics in ways that make no sense from a purely economic standpoint. While Europe, which shares a border with Russia, pays exorbitant prices for Russian gas, countries like India continue to buy cheap energy from Russia, all thanks to their diplomatic and economic ties within the BRICS framework. India, as a key player in BRICS, benefits from purchasing Russian energy at a fraction of the price Europe is now forced to pay. This indirect energy trade has created a bizarre loop where Europe, stuck in a policy of sanctions, ends up paying higher prices, while the US and India profit from the inefficiencies and contradictions of the energy market. The real impact is felt by consumers who are faced with skyrocketing energy bills, inflationary pressures, and an economy on the brink of instability. Meanwhile, the financial elites on both sides of the Atlantic continue to profit from this system. 3. The central banking system. The burden on global GDP, the financial system, and its extractive toll. The current global financial system is largely driven by central banks, whose policies often prioritize short-term economic growth at the expense of long-term stability. Central banks have the power to print money, manipulate interest rates, and dictate monetary policy, often leading to inflation, rising national debts, and widening inequality. While these policies might temporarily stimulate economic activity, they inevitably extract value from the global economy, eroding purchasing power and creating a financial system that disproportionately benefits the wealthy elite. The system is built on debt. Governments borrow to fund budgets, Businesses borrow to invest and grow, and individuals borrow to purchase homes, cars, and education. This reliance on debt creates an ever-expanding financial web, one that enriches the financial sector but impoverishes the average person. As inflation rises and the cost of living increases, ordinary people find themselves trapped in cycles of debt, unable to achieve financial freedom or long-term stability. Inefficiencies and inequities of the current system. The fundamental flaw of the current financial system is its inefficiency and its inherent tendency to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. As the cost of living rises, fueled by inflated energy prices and rising debt, economic inequality deepens. Central banks, through policies like quantitative easing and low interest rates, have created an environment where wealth is siphoned off from the broader economy and consolidated among the ultra-wealthy. This not only creates social instability, but also undermines the productivity of the global workforce, which continues to produce wealth, yet sees little of it return to their pockets. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. 4. Alternative Economic Models, a Solution in Decentralization. Introduction to Bitcoin and Decentralized Finance. Bitcoin and decentralized finance, DeFi, represent a potential alternative to the current financial system. Built on blockchain technology, Bitcoin provides an alternative store of value that is not subject to the whims of central banks. DeFi, on the other hand, offers a decentralized financial ecosystem where individuals can borrow, lend, trade, and invest without relying on traditional banks. These models democratize access to financial services, making them available to the unbanked and underbanked populations worldwide. Unlike the traditional banking system, where central authorities control monetary policy, DeFi allows for peer-to-peer transactions and the creation of decentralized applications, DApps, that operate without intermediaries. This reduces the cost of financial transactions, lowers the barrier to entry for financial participation, and challenges the monopolistic nature of traditional banking. Decentralization and financial sovereignty. By embracing decentralized systems like Bitcoin and DeFi, individuals can regain control over their financial futures. These systems break free from the centralized control of financial institutions, allowing people to bypass traditional gatekeepers like banks, credit card companies, and insurance firms. Decentralization empowers individuals to manage their own wealth, free from the inflationary policies of central banks and the exorbitant fees charged by financial intermediaries. Moreover, DeFi enables a global, inclusive financial system where anyone with internet access can participate, regardless of location, socioeconomic background, or credit history. This has the potential to alleviate the burden of central banking systems that have historically extracted wealth from those at the bottom of the economic ladder. The path forward, solutions for a more resilient system. Addressing energy inefficiencies. In light of the energy crisis, Europe must reconsider its energy strategy. Rather than continuing to pay inflated prices for Russian energy through convoluted geopolitical channels, Europe should explore alternative sources of energy, invest in renewable technologies, and streamline its energy policies to create a more transparent and cost-effective system. Reducing reliance on politically charged energy markets will allow consumers to benefit from fairer prices and a more stable energy landscape. Transitioning to decentralized finance. The global financial system must evolve to prioritize fairness, transparency, and sustainability. Transitioning to decentralized finance could be one way to reduce the control of central banks and give individuals more financial sovereignty. Governments and individuals alike should begin exploring ways to integrate DeFi into their financial lives, whether through direct investments or through policy advocacy for a more decentralized global economy. Long-term vision, a just and resilient global economy. The future of the global economy hinges on the ability to transition from extractive, centralized financial systems to more equitable and resilient models. By embracing decentralization, we can build a financial system that serves the needs of all people, not just the wealthy few. This shift can help alleviate the burdens of rising energy costs, growing debt, and economic inequality, paving the way for a more stable and prosperous future for everyone. Conclusion. The current energy and financial crises are not inevitable consequences of global events, but rather the result of deliberate policy choices that prioritize geopolitical posturing and centralized control. The rising cost of energy and the financial instability caused by central banking practices are not just economic challenges, they are systemic flaws that require urgent reform. Alternative economic models like Bitcoin and decentralized finance offer a pathway to a more resilient, equitable financial system. By embracing decentralization and prioritizing the well-being of individuals over the profits of central financial institutions, we can build a global economy that works for everyone, not just the elite few.